The following message is by Pastor John Piper. More information from Desiring God is available at www.desiringgod.org.
Before I entered college, I scarcely gave any thought to cancer and terminal illness in general. Then I went away to school at Wheaton, and two of my very close acquaintances died before they were 22, one of leukemia and one of cancer of the lymph glands. Then I went to Fuller Seminary, and within 1 year watched my systematics professor, Jim Morgan, shrivel up and die of cancer of the intestines. He was 36. Then I went to Germany to study for 3 years, and 6 months before I was finished, my mentor, Professor Goppelt, dropped dead on the way to the subway of a massive coronary. And then I came to Bethel and taught for 6 years and watched administration and students and faculty die of cancer. Sue Port, Paul Greeley, Bob Bergerud, Ruth Ludeman, Graydon Held, Chet Lindsay, Mary Ellen Carlson, all Christians, all dead before their 70 were up. And now I've come to Bethlehem, and Harvey Ring is gone, and you could multiply the list tenfold. What shall we say to these things? Something must be said, because sickness and death is a threat to faith in the love and the power of God. And I regard it as my number one pastoral responsibility to nourish faith in the love and the power of God. And so I want us to listen carefully to the Word today. There's no weapon like the Word for warding off threats to faith in the love and the power of God. I regard this message today as a crucial pastoral message, which is why it's going to last almost 40 minutes. And I'll understand those have to catch buses and save your roasts if you take off at 12. But I can't shorten it. It's crucial because if you thought that your pastor had the idea that every sickness is a punishment for some particular sin, or if you thought that your pastor thought that the failure to be healed in a few days after praying was a sign of inauthentic faith, or if you thought that I thought that Satan really is the ruler of this age and God can only wring His hands in heaven while Satan wreaks havoc with his children down below, you'd relate to me very differently in sickness than if you knew what I really thought. And so I want to tell you what I really think this morning about Christ and cancer, and I hope that I can show that it is not merely my thought, but God's thought. And if it's not, you should ignore it and seek for better counsel. The text is Romans chapter 8, verses 18 to 28, and I'd like everybody who has a Bible to look at it because we want to observe some things here very closely. I have 6 affirmations that sum up my theology of sickness. And I think they all are here in Romans 8, 18 to 28. At least the seed of them is here. Where it's only a seed, I'll choose some texts elsewhere in Scripture to bring the flower forth. I think to save time, I will not read it again since it was just read, but simply point to the particular places where I draw my affirmations. Affirmation number 1. The age in which we live, which extends from the fall of man into sin to the second coming of Christ, is an age in which all creation, including our bodies, is enslaved to corruption and subjected to futility. Verse 20. The creation was subjected to futility. In verse 21, the creation will be freed from slavery to corruption. And the reason I think our bodies are included there is because of verse 23. Not only the wider creation, but we ourselves, that is, we Christians, groan in ourselves, awaiting sonship, that is, the redemption of our body. Redemption from what? Subjection to futility and slavery to corruption. Our bodies are part of creation, and they participate in the futility and the corruption to which all creation has been subjected. Who is it in verse 20 that has subjected creation to futility? It's God. The candidates for that position might be God, Satan, or man. Paul might have meant Satan in luring man into sin, on which then God pronounced the curse, is the one who subjected all creation to futility. Or he might have meant man in disobeying God at the very beginning is the one who subjected all creation to futility. But it won't work. And the reason neither of those is correct is because of that little phrase, in hope, at the end of verse 20. The creation has been subjected in hope. Now, what that little phrase gives is the design and the intention of whoever it was that subjected the creation to futility. But we know that Satan and man, in their sin, certainly had no intention of subjecting creation to futility in order that hope for redemption might be kindled in the human heart, and so that one day freedom for the sons of God might emerge in the age to come. Only one person could subject the creation to futility and enslave it to bondage in hope, and that's the loving and the just Creator. Therefore, I conclude that the whole world stands under the judicial sentence of God upon rebellious and sinful mankind. A sentence that is so universal that it embraces even Christians and even their bodies. No one is excluded. And probably Paul means both spiritual and physical corruption and futility here. And the reason I think it's both, we'll see later on. But he means, on the spiritual side, that men make foolish decisions. They have flawed perception. They have misconceived goals. All that intellectual and sinful, futile misdirection of mankind. But on the other hand, there are flood, famine, volcanoes, earthquakes, tidal waves, plagues, snake bites, car accidents, plane crashes, asthma, allergies, the common cold, and cancer that wreaks havoc in the world, causing pain and bringing men, all men, to the dust. And as long as we are in the body, we are slaves to corruption. Paul said this same thing, didn't he? In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16, where he says, we do not lose heart, even though our outer man, that's the body, is, and then he uses this word which some translate decaying, or some being corrupted. It's the same word, or a related word, to the one in Romans 8. Our outer man is decaying while our inner man is being renewed from day to day. The word Paul uses here for this decaying is the same one used in Luke 12:33, where Jesus says, put your treasure in heaven